I know we must learn to stand together, learn to live together, learn it's not forever. I know, let's see if we can let the...
All right. Welcome once again to The Middle, Politics and Profanity. My co-pilot, the captain to my Tennille, Justin, is here with us.
What's up, man?
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
You don't know the captain and Tennille?
No.
No, you're not old enough to know
I
them.
missed that one.
Those people who are out there, they know exactly who I'm talking about. On the other side of the glass, working the levels and producing engineering, planning his escape is Ryan. And we have a shitload of things that happened this week, once again.
Great.
Yeah, man. Well, let's start with where we kind of started last week, so we can wrap that up. So they buried John McCain yesterday.
Yep. Obama's
And
speech.
They had Obama speaking.
Yeah.
They had Joe Biden spoke during the week when he was laying in state in the Arizona state capitol.
We had our elegant president of the United States there. Wait. No.
No, we had Ivanka tweeting in the second row. She was literally on her phone texting.
Put the phone down,
I mean,
children.
just for a minute. Just for a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had all.
Did she have the coat on?
Well, yeah, you know, because they do that. Let me look. Jared Kushner and his family are rich as fuck.
Yeah.
And, you know, Ivanka's not doing bad with all the cheap shit jewelry and clothing that she sold, you know, made in Indonesian sweatshops. So, you know, they do the New York power couple, hey, we wear black really well kind of thing. They do that well. But otherwise, they're basically, you know, feckless cunts, as somebody would say. So they sat there, you know, like, you know, when do we eat was basically what you got, was the vibe they were throwing off.
Get the fuck out of here.
So that happened. We had Obama got up and did a whole thing, and George W. and Michelle Obama were having their moments, holding hands in the front row in the pew, you know, and doing that whole thing.
Can I just say I like GW?
Now in retrospect.
Yeah.
Now understand when
I was a child and we were going to war, it was a little different. But now, years later, after all that, and with the much easier ability to ignore all that.
Right. Because now we see what could actually happen if somebody tries to make
Realistically,
himself
I just
a dictator.
like him because of the Mission Accomplished picture. Where he's on the boat with the big Mission Accomplished.
I actually was running a T-shirt company at that time, and one of the T-shirts I had, one of my best-selling T-shirts, was his picture of him doing the Mission Accomplished, walking in the flight suit.
Right.
And it said, the Patriot Act, pretending you're a real soldier.
Yeah. That's why, like that irony and hilarity is why my show is named Mission Accomplished with the picture.
Oh, there you go, man.
Yeah. So shameless plug.
One of the best ones, and you should check him out. Mission Accomplished here on Howard Broadcasting. One of my favorite moments with him was when he went to go like open the door, and like the press corps is there and they're taking pictures, and he went to go open this door and it was locked.
Yeah.
So there he is standing there with the locked door, and he literally does a little tap dance. He did a little tap dance to the cameras and shit. I'm like, this guy's a fucking moron. What is he doing right now?
Yeah.
But in comparison to the fucking dangerous madman that we have in charge of the country right now, George W. is all right. He's an all right. He's a coke head, weed smoking, alcoholic, hang out, chill dude compared to this asshole. So they did that. And then the big thing that happened was you got Meghan McCain got up. And she said a couple of things about America and how, for my father, he didn't need to make America great again because America was always great.
Right.
And she did like another one or two of those kind of, digs. Yeah, little digs at the president. And hey, look, man, I've lost people in my life. And when you have, you're in that grieving moment, people do and say things that are a little harsh to other people, but you forgive them because you understand, they're going through a hard time. Yeah. Well, not Trump supporters, because Twitter lit up with a whole fucking bunch of angry fucking death threat tweets toward Meghan McCain for having the balls to, do something so subtle as to jab at the president of the United States. It drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's like, let's get pissed at the worst possible time ever. Like, totally... It's just absurd.
It's absurd because they don't even realize the sweet irony of what they're doing.
Right.
Like, they love everything that Meghan McCain just did.
Yeah.
They just don't love that she did it.
Right.
They love it when Trump does it. When Trump sends out the tweets about sad, horrible ratings, this person is a loser.
Yeah. It's suddenly cool.
Right. It's cool when he does it, but when Meghan McCain does it, they literally had one picture of her standing over her father's coffin, draped in an American flag, tears running down her face, and a hand holding a 9mm pointed at her.
Wow. Rough.
I mean,
that takes like effort to do.
Right, like you actually went on Photoshop.
There's actual humans expending brain power to like accomplish this hate.
And they did it. Like, they put it up on Twitter, and it didn't get taken down for a long time. And then by then, it had already been shared, retweeted, and sent around the world and back again. So, it didn't make a fucking difference at that point how bad @Jack thought it was, because that guy's a fucking piece of work, the guy who runs Twitter. But whatever, I like Twitter as a platform. Some people we know love it as a platform. But anyway, so that was kind of the hate-filled nonsense that we had to go through to put an American hero on the ground. Couldn't even get through a funeral
without some controversy.
Right.
Jesus, fuck.
Like, we just don't do funerals like we used to.
Yeah.
Like, we're really shitty at that. The other great funeral this week was Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
The Queen of Soul was buried, and that was the other, who's who kind of lineup. We had Bill Clinton was there, and you had, I can't even remember all the guests that sang. It was like they basically, if you took like Aretha Franklin's greatest hits and handed it out to like some of the top singers of today, that's basically what they did. Yeah. It was like a VMA Awards tribute or Grammy Awards show tribute. And, the one person who got lost in the shuffle this week, and it's a shame because I write and I've written screenplays and I've acted a little on stage. And last week, in the middle of Aretha and John McCain, we lost Neil Simon, the playwright.
Shit.
Who wrote The Odd Couple,
yeah,
Barefoot in the Park, let's see.
That's a big name. Prisoner
of Second Avenue, Sunshine Boys, Biloxi Blues, The Goodbye Girl. I mean, there's so many that he did. The Out-of-Towners, which was a great one. One guy said, he wrote 32 plays and 17 were hits. Let's try duplicating that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have one hit play,
right,
you have a career on Broadway. This guy he was batting over 500.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He is the Hall of Fame for playwrights. So he died at 91. And he was, they said that he had Alzheimer's, but nobody confirmed that. But he died from complications to pneumonia, which is basically what happens when you're in your original equipment just breaks down.
Right, and it can't handle those onslaughts.
Right. So he wound up passing at 91. But it happened literally the day after Aretha.
People are getting older. 91's a good age.
Dude, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but if you made me lock it in right now, and I could guarantee it.
Yeah, that's a good number.
I think I'd take it. I think I'd take 91. I'd be like, yeah, maybe you might make it further than that. But it's like, how much further are you going to make it? And
well, it's going to keep growing. That number is going to keep getting higher over the next 30, 40.
It is. I was just watching, Ancient Aliens.
Yes. I've seen every episode.
They had the newest episode was... what was it called? Like The Human Machine or something like that. It was AI. They were talking about AI and how the ultimate is to download consciousness or upload consciousness into AI, a machine, and become, invincible and live forever.
Right.
Hey, great, man.
Yeah.
Again,
on the other
up.
end of the spectrum, there's they have good documentaries. There's one on Netflix, this show Explained, which is done by Vox, I believe.
Yeah.
But they did a whole episode on life extension there. And they did another episode on designer DNA. And the two together really paint a strong picture of life expectancy in the future. Like at a base scientific level, we've come leaps and bounds. The reason why he made it to 91 a lot of the times is some of these advances. And we're getting pretty far up there in the crazy shit that we're finding and being able to do.
Yep. And now if they're able to not have to even worry about curing disease, you can just give up the body.
Right.
And be put into a body that doesn't get diseased.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Or just modify the one you have to the point where...
Yeah, like a cyborg type of thing. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that kind of thing as well. So that was the week of tributes and ceremony and flag controversies and I mean, how much of a little boy do you need to be to stamp your feet and hold your breath and
the move there was to put the flag immediately down. Like, you didn't necessarily have to go to the funeral, I guess, because you were a dickhole.
Right.
But, just put the flag down, dude.
Right.
Immediately.
Right. And not put it back up again.
Yeah. Or at least put someone in charge of it that knows what the fuck is going on.
Somebody was in charge of it.
Shit.
And he came to work on Monday after a hard weekend of golfing. And he was like, why is the flag down? Put the flag up.
Fucking.
And it was like, what? And by the end of the day, when the American Legion, everybody else were giving him angry phone calls like, what the fuck are you doing? It went back up again. It's like, yeah, dude, it's too late now. It doesn't make a difference.
You already messed it up.
Right. I mean.
Come on.
How inept does an administration have to be if you between that and remember the phone call last week to the Mexican president?
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't work a speakerphone.
Yeah.
It's like if you can't get the little things right, the chances of you getting huge international trade deals and it's just a fucking shit show. So that was that. So in the hey, we might actually get rid of this asshole one day because he's a fucking criminal part of the news, we had a couple of developments. The first development was a guy who nobody had on their radar, who nobody knows about, stepped forward into a federal courtroom the other day, and he pled guilty to funneling $50,000 of Ukrainian oligarch money into the Donald J. Trump inauguration fund.
Yes.
So that they could get tickets to the inauguration and, peddle some influence with the President of the United States because he seems to be lustful about that part of the world for some reason.
For some reason. It's very obvious.
So just in case the people at home don't know, it is entirely illegal for foreign nationals to put money into a campaign fund or into an inauguration fund. The reason being, we don't want foreign nationals peddling money and influence to our national leaders. So he got pinched. His name is Sam Patton. And he happens to tread the same ground as Paul Manafort, who recently, of course, had his 8-count conviction on all federal felonies in money laundering and all kinds of other shady business. But yeah, so this guy basically they paid $50,000. Well, they're not exactly sure on that. It's $50,000 to $100,000, basically to rub shoulders with the politicians, including the President of the United States. And he went in and pled guilty. There will be no sentencing for the time being because, oh, surprise, he's going to cooperate with the Robert Mueller probe. I mean, a guy who's peddling money for Ukrainian and Russian oligarchs, what could he possibly have to add to the witch hunt?
The witch hunt.
What kind of things could he say that anybody would want to hear about or tweet that there's no collusion? We will see. That's, I'm sure, not the last we heard of Sam Patton. In other Russia-related news, this happened. This is the...
the light.
All right, okay. It's We don't have our white balance, huh? But this is the United States District Court for the District of Columbia defendant sentencing memorandum for George Papadopoulos. If you don't remember Mr. Papadopoulos, he'd be the coffee boy that everybody claimed was unimportant and didn't do anything worth knowing about in the Trump campaign. But of course, if there was nothing he did that was important, he wouldn't have had to have lied to the FBI, which he did, and then get pinched on it, and now he's going to get sentenced, which this is his lawyers arguing on his behalf to please not lock poor Georgie up. And fuck if they don't use the he was just a coffee boy defense. They literally say, here, I'm quoting, this is his lawyers talking, to say George was out of his depth would be a gross understatement. Oh, gee, thanks, man.
Jeez.
Despite being a young energy policy guru, he had no experience in dealing with Russian policy or its officials. Well, you know what? You were on the right team. Because nobody on the Trump fucking campaign had any experience doing any of the things they were put in charge of.
Forget about the long history of very well reported, like, Russian partnerships with the Trump organization going back to the fucking 80s in detail with numbers and statements.
Yep. So this was exactly what happened to him. Now, if you remember correctly, there's the famous picture of him sitting at that table at a campaign meeting, and Trump's at the one end, Jeff Sessions is at the other end. All these other guys are in between because they called him a coffee boy, and it's like, well, he's sitting third from Donald Trump at a table. There's only like 10 guys there.
Yeah, that's what you want there.
Right. So
coffee boy.
Right. So I mean, he was at least in the top 10 of
Dude,
people.
you're making it to the table like you're not just a coffee boy. Period.
Right. Like I've sat in meetings and stuff where I was the guy representing, and against the wall are the chairs of the people who aren't at the table, and they're important, but they're not as important as me.
Yeah.
Right. So he was at the table, and this is where he brought up the fact that he had made connections with a couple of Russians, one of which he thought was the niece of Vladimir Putin. And he went ahead and offered up to the Trump campaign if they'd like for him to try and set up a meeting between Trump and Putin. Well, a couple of the guys at the table said, I don't know about that, because they were the only guys who actually had experience in campaigning.
Dealing with this.
And knowing that this probably would be completely illegal and stupid. And Trump was like, of course, I think that's a great idea. And then Jeff Sessions said, we should look into it, which would be news in this thing because Jeff Sessions testified in front of a Senate committee that he said that was a bad idea and he shot it down immediately. Well, that doesn't jive at all, does it?
No,
it seems like somebody's lying.
Yeah.
And if it seems like the guy who's already got caught lying would then lie again for no good reason.
We're getting a lot of this now.
Seems like
a lot of people with initial interviews that are turning out to be slightly mischaracterized.
Right, and that's what they say.
I.e. lied.
I misspoke. Oh, is that what we call it now?
Misspoke. Okay. We'll try not to do that on the first time.
And that's exactly what happened. So he went ahead and he got out of the shower one day.
It costs a lot of tax dollars to have these hearings, people.
It is. I mean, this is just the memo for his lawyers to plead that he doesn't get. That's 16
the
pages.
That's probably $1,100 an hour just to generate.
Right. So I mean, these guys are really. I mean, he could get a couple of years. I think they only recommended that he get 6 months. But he is a convicted felon now, so that follows him for the rest of his life. You can't get rid of that. The one consolation is he's got an extremely super hot wife. You see her, man?
Yeah.
She's that blonde,
and
like Russian chick.
Book deal, I'm sure.
So, but if he goes away for 6 months to the federal Huskow,
I don't think she'll stick around.
I don't know, man. Maybe she'll stick around for the book money.
Depends on how much you can pay her per day.
You should. Michael Cohen. Oh, Michael Cohen can't even take care of that anymore.
Oh yeah,
because he's not a lawyer. Because he's a convicted felon too. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. So that was that's our Russia stuff this week, and of course, in the midst of all that, you bring up the Jeff Sessions thing.
I recused myself. He
Right.
recused himself. He's not involved.
And I thought to myself, what kind of a man is this that recuses himself? He should have told me he couldn't go in there and lie, cheat, and steal to protect me as my attorney general. I would have found somebody else to lie for me.
Jesus.
Those are the statements you hear from this guy. And you're just like, really? Is that what you're saying out loud in front of people on camera? And then later on he says, oh, they what did he say?
not what
They
you think
fudged
it
the
is.
tape.
Yeah, fudged the tape.
That was his thing with the Lester Holt interview.
Yeah.
Where he literally said, we've all heard it 1,000 times, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia, it's just a made-up thing to make up for Democrats losing an election. I would have fired him anyway, regardless of the recommendation.
Yeah. Just not.
I mean, everything he said was in plain sight, and now because he realizes that
It's very
that was
strange, like how both, like, I don't know. It's like not enough people are listening, or I don't know. What's the deal there?
They have this. I don't understand this whole worship of this guy. I forget what the saying is that people say that he's their version of like what a rich guy is, and
right.
He's a version of what a smart guy is, and he is none of
That's
those
weird.
things.
Those are pretty low standards.
Right, right. I mean, there are a lot of people who you could look at who are smart and successful and wealthy, who are not a complete sham
Yeah.
like this guy is. Now, I grew up in New York.
Some of the waitresses at the diner I go to every morning, they're great people.
Right. You could hold you could hold a great conversation with them.
Yeah.
You know, they're up on current events. They know what's
Right.
going on. You know, they can pronounce things properly.
They have
Not
a
this
good
guy.
moral compass, like,
Right.
hey, should we have foreign leaders influencing our shit here?
Right.
No.
They haven't paid anybody off through a shady lawyer that they
Yeah.
call a fixer. Yeah. None of these things that all of us think are fairly weird. I grew up in New York, and so growing up as a kid there, Donald Trump was always in the news as being basically a shady real estate dude who, opened his mouth way too much and said a lot of stupid things, and he was just part of the atmosphere.
He was the dude who played the media to like have a clownish nature portrayed of himself, even.
right. Well, you heard
he
the
did that on
recordings of him
purpose.
calling and making believe he was somebody else.
Come on, like that's his whole shtick.
John
He's just
Barron
being a
calling
fucking
for
nut.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump.
He's like sitting alone in his little office.
Like, how can I get into on page 6 of the
Right.
Post this week?
It's important to him.
And that was it. That he'd go out on a date with some model on his arm, and he'd make sure that people
Typical
were there.
Bruce Wayne move.
Right, and then and so he used to go on Howard Stern all the time, and Howard Stern's a great broadcaster. I'm a huge fan of his for years and years, and I used to listen. I've listened to like all those interviews with Donald Trump. And he was just basically a male whore. I mean,
Right.
he would just sit there and talk about
He's
all
the
his-
Miss Universe guy.
Right.
This is not
About how he used to just walk into the dressing room while they were dressing so he could see.
Dude. Like, great, just brag about it.
Right. It reminds me of, remember, what was the one with Tom Hanks and the mermaid, the movie? Splash. Reminds me of, remember John Candy played his brother? He
Yes.
dropped the change on the ground and look up girls' skirts
Yes.
while he was picking up the change. That's what I think. I mean, that's what I think of. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Buy a magazine.
Right.
Get a skin flick and bring it home with you. You don't just got to walk in on people and
Just a
shit.
side note, too, New York is like the central hub for Russian influence in the country.
Dude, Russian mob out of Brighton Beach
man,
in
that's
Brooklyn.
it. That's
where it's
spot.
headquartered, dude.
That's where it's happening.
That's
where he's from. That's what that city was
Yep.
like,
to the point where they basically pushed the Italian mob out.
Yeah, in a major way.
Right.
Like
So-
undermined their whole situation there, and yeah.
So that was basically the only way he was able to make any money. I mean, everything he did failed. Trump steaks, Trump vodka,
Multiple
Trump
casinos.
University, Trump casinos. And who the fuck can lose money on casinos? You're literally robbing people
Right.
on a daily basis, 24
The whole
hours a
reason
day.
people invest money in those businesses is because it's guaranteed cash.
Guaranteed. There's no way you can lose money
Yeah.
in gambling. I mean, the one of the greatest, the house always wins.
Right.
Everybody knows that because it's true.
Yeah, there's literal math.
But not Trump. Even Trump could fuck this up. So he literally, the only money that he could make was by having Deutsche Bank, which is basically backed by
40
Russians.
million. Yeah.
The only bank that would lend him money because he defaulted on every other bank loan that he had. So he was outlawed by all other legitimate banks.
Right.
The Russians would put money into Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank would lend him money. He would build these buildings, and then the Russians would come in and launder money by buying up all the units in the building.
Right. So they buy the units using shell companies. So you have a $5 million condo that they sell, and then you try to look up who owns the company that owns the condo. You get to a shell corporation, and there's your dead end. Then meanwhile, that condo is being sold 3-4 times a year for $5 million each. That's your perfect way to launder money.
And it's legitimate because it's from a real estate sale.
You know, Putin, his father was in World War II and stuff. Like this dude, his two main goals in life were to rebuild the Soviet Union and to become the richest man in the world.
Right.
Richest man in the world in the modern century by using subversive tactics. Like their
exactly
military shit. So what they had to do was go to the internet. And that's where the war was waged.
And they're getting pretty goddamn good at it.
Good at it.
Right.
Like,
you know what I mean? It's like,
it's much cheaper to run a war that way too. Like Russia didn't need a whole lot of cash to put people online.
Infrastructure's already in place.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just get in there. And so, it reminds me of when they beat us to space.
Yeah.
And it took us a while to catch the fuck up.
To realize the strategy that they employed to do it. Right. And that's what's really important here is like, this is a long-term gig. And dude, you had major Russian gambling rings being busted in Trump Tower where the fucking dude lived. Like, that's your tower, dude. You got all these Russians living there.
Yep.
Don't try to tell people you're not involved. Like,
I know, it's like,
come on, man.
Michael Cohen was a guy. He was,
if
people
I
make
owned
it like
a tower, I would know every single person in that fucking building.
Right.
Because I'm a fucking millionaire and that's what you do. That's your job.
So he was saying, Michael Cohen, people make it like I can't live without him and this, that, the other thing. He's like, he worked on some small deals for, a period of time with the company. It's like, dude, his office was right next door to your office.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally he had to walk out his door, walk one door over into your door. Yeah, you don't know him that well. And that's the kind of bullshit that comes out of this guy. It's just like, you wonder who could possibly buy it.
Right.
Who could possibly buy that?
I don't think people are buying it without a heavy amount of influence and other subterfuge going on. Like, I feel like a lot of people who buy it are the ones that are, I don't know. It's the people who would buy any car from a car salesman.
Right. It's like deep down inside, they know
like
they're getting
you
screwed.
need a pickup truck and you ended up going home in a Honda Civic coupe.
Right. Yeah, exactly that, man. And that's what this guy is. He is a used car salesman. He's completely full of shit. He's going to make you feel dirty just for having been in the same room with him. Yeah, he's just one of those guys. And that's how you could tell the rest of the world leaders were never around him when he goes to these NATO things
except
and
for
the
Putin,
G7.
who seems to be really good friends with him.
Yeah, exactly, except for one exception.
And the dude in Saudi Arabia where he's holding the globe. Like, they seem really friendly, too.
Right, it's like, all right, photo ops over. Yeah, we're going to go chop some heads off now.
Then you've got Justin and Merkel. Whatever you think about them two, he's, like, on bad terms with them, and they're, like, the nicest.
So what do you think about him going and, like, all of a sudden changing? He wants to change NAFTA and basically do no deal with Canada.
Right. That's fucking crazy.
Who's our largest trading partner we have a surplus with.
Massive. Like, that's a huge benefit to us in many ways, other than the fact that they're on the same continent.
Right.
Like
and we share an international border for thousands of miles.
Like a massive one.
And you think to yourself, you know what? Only a shithead who could bankrupt casinos could possibly fuck up a trade deal with our next door neighbor that actually makes us money. Right. That actually makes us money.
Yeah.
And he's going to fuck it up.
Yeah. But then the other end of that deal was siding with Mexico, correct? So,
yes.
Right? Like,
yeah. And in reality, NAFTA excludes the possibility of him doing separate deals. I mean, he doesn't pay attention to that because, it's rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Right. So when we signed NAFTA, it said that any trade deals or any modifications to that would have to be with both countries. You can't just do a unilateral thing with a trilateral. But now we're getting into weeds. But just the same, guys like Obama and Clinton, and they're policy wonks. They know this stuff. They understand what it is to, and he just doesn't. He doesn't even understand how to fucking how the Constitution works. He doesn't even understand.
Yeah.
I mean, look how small this little book is.
Doesn't take much to be educated.
Yeah. Take an hour out of your executive time, and instead of watching Fox and Friends, go ahead and read the thing that all the Fox and Friends are losing their shit about.
While the other guys are hitting off the tee,
right?
Just have anything of informational value in your hand while you're sitting on the fucking golf cart.
Right. Well, how about while you're on the fucking bowl, getting rid of the Big Macs that you had at lunch today? Yeah. Sit there and read a little bit of the, this thing that all the Fox and Friends go nut shit about, the Constitution. Read it and learn about it, my friend. So, speaking of things that Trump knows nothing about, happy Labor Day to everybody.
Oh, it's my day.
Yeah, Labor Day is this weekend, and let's see, Labor Day is the first Monday in September. It is a creation of the labor movement, and it's dedicated to the social and economic achievements of American workers. Constitutes a yearly national tribute to the contributions workers have made to the strength, prosperity, and well-being of our country. Now, if only we could have a cohesive and comprehensive tweet like that come out of the White House, but that'll never happen. Instead, what we got was, Happy Labor Day, America. No federal employees are getting the raise that I promised you. That is literally how he celebrated Labor Day weekend, was to announce that the raise that they had announced that was automatically going to get kicked in at the beginning of the new year is canceled because it's too expensive.
Yeah. Not
my golf trips are too expensive. Not that the tax cut that I gave that was $1 trillion to rich people. Not that that was too expensive. Not that the fucking parade, the military parade I was going to throw for $80 million, that was expensive. Yep. The raise that was already promised was going to be automatic at the beginning of 2019. He canceled it 2 days before the Labor Day weekend. Happy Labor Day, America. Go fuck yourselves. That's basically what your rich oligarch president has basically said to you. That's all he is. He's just one more Russian oligarch. Right. Except he lives on Pennsylvania Avenue.
There.
Exactly.
Like pretty well.
Right. Fuck you, comrades. So, Labor Day is been around since 1882. The first Labor Day was celebrated on Tuesday, September 5th, in New York City in accordance with the plans of the Central Labor Union, and that's all part of the guys that became the AFL-CIO as we moved forward. Became a nationwide holiday in 1884. And from 1885 on, it was celebrated in most industrial centers of the country, and now is basically a happy 3-day weekend for all of America.
It's the end of summer.
Yeah, it's the end of summer. Yeah. Kids go back to school.
Yeah,
shit's on sale. You know, and for federal employees, it's fuck you weekend. So, like you were saying, they were on pace to get, I don't know, a couple of percent raise, which in reality would have kept them making what they're making now if you take into account inflation.
The cost of living.
Which is about 2.6% this year. So if they were getting a 2.5% raise, they're basically making the same amount of money. Now that they're getting no raise, they'll actually be making less money than what they made this year, next year.
Right.
Not to mention all the prices that go up.
Enough.
Right, they didn't work hard enough. In this administration, if there's one group of people who have not flown under the radar and have not avoided being picked on by the president, it has been career federal employees.
Right.
He's literally chased some of them out of their careers and even cost one guy his fucking pension.
Yeah.
His pension. It was like 2 days before his retirement, they fired him.
Axed.
At the president's behest.
Yep.
So if anything has been consistent, it's been that basically he hates all wage workers. He hates anybody who doesn't make their money from passive income.
By buying and reselling condos to Russians.
Right. He's talking about, getting rid of capital gains tax.
Oh, good.
Because that's what a guy making $15 an hour is worried about, capital gains tax.
That's a big issue for me.
It always fucking gets me. So that's Labor Day. Happy Labor Day. We hope you celebrated better than the Trump administration has helped us celebrate it. All right. And then, of course, this past week we had a lot of elections across the country this past Tuesday.
Yeah, so is Florida's done now?
Florida's done as far as the
primaries
are going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have our very first African-American nominee for the governorship, well, at least of a major party, for the governorship of Florida, the state that we are presently in. Andrew Gillum was elected in a three-way primary this past Tuesday to run against Ron DeSantis, a state House Republican here in the state of Florida, who is heavily endorsed by Donald Trump, which I don't know if that's the kiss of death or helpful or whatever. But Ron DeSantis promptly celebrated his victory by going on Fox the very next day and telling people not to vote for Gillum, the African-American Democratic nominee for governor, because you didn't want to, quote, monkey this up.
Oh, yeah.
by voting for the black guy. Of course, he walked it back, a day later, saying that, of course, he didn't mean that was in any racist way. And then people said, well, who the fuck says monkey this up? Like, is that even a term that people use? And if you use it, you should probably stop. Because it's obviously, if that's an actual saying, we know where it came from. Right. So then he followed that up with, oh, people don't believe me that I say it all the time? Well, I've got guys from college who wrote me who said that I used to use it all the time in college. Yeah, you know what, dude? You're trying too hard.
That's a stretch. That was the equivalent of I have a girlfriend in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, you don't know. She goes to a different school.
My friends totally said I say that. Dude.
So, I mean, that was the first 2 days of this guy's campaign to be my governor here in the state of Florida was, don't monkey this up. I said it all the time.
Yeah, this is a red state. He's the favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's okay.
Well, I think the initial polls had it where he was a little bit ahead, but I think the next polls, like, after the monkey it up,
right, that
were more like within a couple of points of each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a good race. Andrew Gillum, a lot of guys in the party here, Democratic Party here, have been touting him to me. I could have met up with him last year when he first announced. He's the current mayor of Tallahassee.
If the governor goes blue in a red state, how does that go for the major general? Will it typically go the way of the governor? Actually, yeah, well, because Christie in New Jersey, was he a Republican?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the state went blue.
Yeah, well, Jersey and New York, they're actually blue states.
Right,
I mean,
but they occasionally have red
Republicans
governors.
and national, senators. They have Republican senators. I mean, more.
So Gillum gets in, Jersey. And Florida could still go red in the general for the reelect.
Yeah, Florida's what they call a purple state. Okay. Because we do teeter-totter.
Yeah.
We're
it's always been close. It's not like a very clear thing. Florida's a swing state, essentially, right? And a big one at that.
Trump won it by a smidge. Okay. It was like 1 point something percent or 2%. He won it by, and they went for Obama twice.
Yeah.
So it's one of those states that can go either way because we're made up of so many different.
In the immediate, the governorship, if it goes red or blue, that'll affect state policy for us.
Well, yeah, because our House and our Senate are very red.
Yeah.
And so what it would do is, I'm pretty sure they have, I know they have a majority, pretty sure they have supermajority. So they would be able to override vetoes of his if he was vetoing stuff.
Yeah.
But of course, we can change that, folks, and we can change that by voting in November. Make sure you vote for your Democratic candidate.
The local elections in your state, too, are ultra important. Like, that really sets the stage for a lot of shit.
And that's the thing.
And they're, like, not advertised. Like, they're advertised in your local area through signage and stuff like that. But on a national level, there's, like, very little awareness. You got to have local level awareness to really be into it.
And that's, you know, when I talk to people and tell them, and I'm telling all of you out there who are considering voting this year, if you haven't voted before and if you're not registered, the place to go get registered is your local county supervisor of elections. So no matter what you want to vote in, even if you just want to vote for a president in 2020, you still have to register locally through your county supervisor of elections. And those guys handle all the elections, from school board to county commission to state representatives to governor to president. All of them, that's what they say, all politics is local, because those people locally, they handle all the elections from the president on down. So those are the guys you register with, the supervisor of elections. So whatever county you're in, do yourself a favor if you're not registered. Just go online, whatever county. Let's say you're in Lincoln County. Put in Lincoln County supervisor of elections. That's the person you're going to register with. It's the same all across America. And register to vote, and then, you know, vote your conscience. But if your conscience tells you to vote Republican, you got a shitty conscience this year. Let's be honest. I mean, there used to be nothing wrong with voting Republican. I've voted Republican many times in my life. It's not a big deal.
The situation currently seems to be a little in trouble.
We're in trouble. There's dire straits. So please think about it before you start voting and doing something stupid like vote down the line for the GOP. Okay, so that was Andrew Gillum, and after, of course, the monkey it up comments from Ron DeSantis, an auspicious start to his governor's campaign. The very next day found racist robocalls by a white supremacist group being sent out to voters all across Florida. The person is speaking, of course, in the looky here, see now, and you can hear jungle music, jungle sounds in the background, monkeys and birds and all kinds of jungle drums and things. Literally.
The fuck?
Literally, that's what happened.
Madness.
Right. So that's already started. Hooray. I'm so looking forward to it. You know, there are a lot of people who resist the madness, the president and the GOP, who are spineless, coward fucks. And there are some people who do it vocally, and there are some people who do it in song, which is me. And we'll get to that in a minute. And there are some people who do it with art. And some of the people who do it with art are very famous. Not artists, per se, but famous otherwise, like this piece of art, which is telling us that Donald Trump is toast. If you look down in the corner there, you see a little signature. That's Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey doing a little artwork there. So we got Jim Carrey. We've also, here's another Jim Carrey of Trump with it's a vampire, the vampire lord with Rudy Giuliani, doing his best little servant role, holding the torch, tickling his ball sack, whatever the president needs. What else we got there? It's another great Jim Carrey. Got Robert Mueller out fishing on the SS Special Counsel. And if you recognize that counsel is spelled correctly, unlike the president, who can't seem to spell the word counsel correctly. And he's hooked himself one more liar. This is Trump's favorite admirer, Rosie O'Donnell. So she likes to do very orange portraits of Donald Trump. Rosie O'Donnell's artwork is actually available. She sells it, I believe, and gives the money to charities on Etsy. So if you go to Etsy.com and you look for Rosie O'Donnell, you'll see some of these great pieces of art. It's the whole thing. I see nightmares. There's a couple words that jump out at you when you're looking at that. But I love the face, and I love the color that she puts on Trump.
Pretty good.
Yeah, she's pretty good, right? And Jim Carrey's really good too.
Yeah, I liked his.
Look at that. Resign, you moron. And she puts a heart where his is missing. And her name, Rosie O'Donnell, next to it. Very proud to say that actually Rosie follows me on Twitter. She is awesome. She is active all the time on Twitter, and she's constantly on top of this dipshit who says nothing good about her. Has called her every nasty name in the book, and because
That's so fucked.
He's classy.
She's a very nice lady.
She is, and she's a New York girl. She's so she's near and dear to my heart because that's where I
hard worker
grew up. Hard worker, came from nothing, and let's be honest,
winning.
I mean, in an industry where looks are everything, in a visual medium, for her to have had the talent to break through, like, hey, I'm not a size 0. With blonde hair and blue eyes, and yet I could still play, a leading role, and I could still make people laugh because I'm funny as shit. She's a great lady. All right, so now it's time for my couple of minutes. If you can go ahead and fire up my song. I wrote a song. It's about that's the YouTube link. It's called Shit Show. You got the video on that? I forgot the bouncing ball, but you can sing along with it because I put the words in. Of course. Because it was in the Inquirer. We all know how legitimate they are. Yes. There we go. Saluting their president. Well, he'll threaten to see. Yes, goats usually don't hate Jews.
After the shrine, they don't want to win the line. He said his sights on knocking her up, but he found instead that pussy wasn't such a reason.
It is difficult. Sometimes. That's a good wingman. I love these criminal enterprise pictures. I like to buy a vowel. Let's whistle. Because I'm one man, I can't solo and play rhythm at the same time.
Who can?
Yeah, exactly. This is my favorite, the puppets. There's some puppets fucking. Oh, it is a puppet. Greatest lawyer in the world right now.
Wow.
Yeah. President of Mexico has something to say about that. Very stable genius.
Hey, Rush, if you listen, he left his shoes under your bed. The ship's show. Every communist is welcome at the ship show. The
likes of which you've never seen.
Robbie is his best friend. Until he's not and he isn't there. If I had 45 more songs to sing, I couldn't tell you all of the mental instability that doesn't bear him. He has all of the best words, he's wouldn't give me none.
He has all of the best words. Highly educated.
If you just landed on this planet in the USA now, you saw this.
That's the perfect movie for him. Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Chain migration. Look at all these chain migrants.
Nice.
I get back in my flying saucer and get the fucking road up in the ship show. All the citizens are welcome at the ship show. Back to the
Lily T.
I don't care about
This guy, typical chunk.
Round here we speak American.
Right, we speak American around here. I don't know what that is, that foreign talk. Because
That's in
we all like to make fun of handicapped people.
Yeah.
Because that's what presidents do.
Yep.
So that was the shit show. We'll put the link on YouTube for you guys if you want to check that out on your own. I put the lyrics with it so you can sing along. So that was my little outlet because it just came into my head, and I had to get it out because that's what I do. And it was a lot of fun doing that. Hey, man, let me ask you something. What do you think about third-party candidates? What's your take on that?
In a way, the binary nature of the system we have set up is a little, it seems like it's restricted. However, with multiple candidates, with a third, it might be interesting. And what you're going for there is diversity. But what I feel you're missing with the binary situation is the culmination effect. Like the binary situation arises from, a boiling down of candidates, essentially. So in a way, it's representative of the best because we do have other systems that lead up to that binary. It's not like it's not like that's coming out of nowhere. There's a primary system. There's a multiple party system. It's just that it ends up coming down to the two because, the majority of people tend to agree that it's, one of these two is the one we want to go with. Right. It's like when you're picking out, I don't know, anything, a granite for your cabinet or something. You're going to pick out 3 different things, then you'll eventually get it down to 2, and then eventually make your decision.
Right on.
So
you're saying as part of a deliberative process for intelligent and informed voters in America, a third-party candidate can be a good way for them to understand what they are looking for in their elected representative.
Yeah.
There you go. No, I didn't have that interaction with people on Twitter when I told Jill Stein to go fuck herself.
Okay.
So, Jill Stein, as far as I'm concerned, is a fucking communist, just like the rest of the people we've got in the Trump administration. She's a little left for me. Right. She was complicit in basically giving us Donald fucking Trump.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, at the presidential level, fuck third-party candidates. You're joking me. Because we're a two-party system, and a third-party candidate is just a vote stealer.
Yeah.
There's nothing you're doing except setting up
we've already boiled it down to
you're just setting up your Simon and Schuster book deal contract. That's fucking all you're doing.
It seems that countries that employ the multiple candidate for the big election too, they are dealing with way smaller populations of people and way smaller instances of policy and things like that. So it's different. It's an entirely different situation when it works.
In a representative democracy, you can have proportional representation, and I agree that that's probably the better way to go than the two-party system because, again, we're called the middle here. We were talking about it earlier. Yeah. It's because we're all a little bit of something. We're not all to the right or all to the left. We have different thoughts and ideas on each issue.
Right.
And so there are times when your handful of issues lines up with one politician. But if they're not a member of a major party, they're just not going to get elected. And so you have to go ahead and say to yourself, well, who's as close aligned with some of the things that I care about and cast your vote for them.
And what you're kind of doing there is making concession like, hey, I'm part of a society. Like, I'm going to...
Well, you have to concede some things and
exactly. You're not going to get everything you want.
Right.
So, like, trying to go for the third party, you're just fucking...
And that's what this guy, one of the people who was arguing with me on Twitter, and I don't usually engage, but it was just like, fuck you Jill Stein assholes. And even fuck the Bernie people who are like Bernie. Nobody needs Bernie Sanders to run again. Nobody needs Hillary Clinton to run again, okay? Those days are over and gone. We don't need any more of the old guard. I think we understand
we
now.
need a new representation of what is not Trump land.
Correct.
That's it. Like, we don't need an old representation because it didn't win.
Right. What is the antidote to Trump? It's not Hillary Clinton.
It's logic.
It's not Bernie Sanders. Right. Yeah. Who is it? We don't know yet. It could be, we were talking people, Kamala Harris, senator from California. We're talking about Cory Booker from New Jersey. I mean, there's some good. Eric Swalwell, another congressman. Adam Schiff is a good guy. There's some governors out there who are thinking about it. Look, man, there's a lot of good people out there. But third-party candidates, especially at a presidential level, are never going to win. So if you want to protest by throwing a vote to, you know, somebody who's not a member of the party, just do me a favor. Just write in Mickey Mouse. Because that's literally what it's just as effective as writing in your favorite comic book character. Just write them in and save us all the fucking pain. So, hey, man, I was doing a little bit of TV watching the other day.
Oh, my specialty.
And I know you like documentaries, and I'll get to you the documentary that I want to talk to you about in a minute. But I saw the female version of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I think I did. It was one of those things where I was probably playing a video game and had it on the other screen playing in the background.
That's exactly what I was doing. I have two screens as well. I was working on my computer, watching the movie. 20 minutes is what I lasted.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It is the god-awful, stinking pile of shit that I hope that it wasn't. Because it's got, I mean, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones. I love all of them. They're fucking really funny people.
From what I remember, it was just a poorly made movie.
Oh, yeah, man.
Like, they fucked up the essence of what made the originals fun and great. And, like, they went way too into the social culture of it. It's like, man. You're a Ghostbuster. Fucking
you're not
come
a real
on,
thing.
Man.
So I watched it. I'm just like, this is a fucking piece of garbage. What am I even doing watching this? And for a guy like me, who I'm old enough, I saw the original Ghostbusters in the theater.
Yeah,
it was one of those movies that I went like a bunch of times to see in the theater.
Great.
Right, and it was just amazing, and I loved it. And at the time, I was in like this program for, you know, sharp kids, and I was going to college over the summer. I guess I was probably 11, something like that. And I was working on the newspaper at the college, and I wrote a movie review on Ghostbusters.
Nice.
That's how much I was into it. And so to see this, what they did to it, I was like, oh.
It was very unfortunate.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
God almighty. So I turned that the fuck off after 20 minutes.
They also did Ocean's 8 with an all-female cast.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I actually would recommend that one. That one was just cool because they followed with the storyline from the three Oceans movies.
Right.
It's like semi-related, and I thought that was really neat. And the way they did it was subtle and like similar to the way the other three were done.
Okay.
So I gave them credit for that. Like there wasn't anything, which was all I was asking for.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's it. I understand they were trying to break new ground.
Which consistency with Ghostbusters would have been nice,
man,
you know.
Come on. It was just awful, and I couldn't take it. So the other thing is a new documentary just dropped on what was the 31st? Friday called Active Measures. Did you see it yet?
I was watching it before I came here.
Awesome.
No shit. That's why I was talking about Russia a bunch.
So Active Measures, it just dropped August 31st.
Fucking excellent.
Chronicles the most successful espionage operation in Russian history, the American presidential election of 2016.
It also chronicles just the entire interference of Russia in general.
That's what it says. So basically, filmmaker Jack Bryan exposes a 30-year history of covert political warfare devised by Vladimir Putin to disrupt and ultimately control world events. In the process, he shows the trail of money, real estate, mob connections, and on-the-record confessions to expose an insidious plot that leads directly back to the White House. And he says that it's essential viewing with democracy hanging in the balance.
My initial thoughts on this thing, this is the table of contents for the news media. Like, this is bringing together everything that you've been hearing pieces of over the last 2 years, essentially, and it puts it all into one spot, like, in a chronological order. This is what happened. Here are the news stories related to it. Here's the evidence. This is the situation we're in.
Right. Here's
Very
the background on how it came to this
And
point.
opens with, like Hillary in a Hillary interview. And so you're immediately, I was immediately like, okay. I was a little skeptical.
Maybe they could have opened it a different way.
Yeah. It was like, okay, that's fine. But once it gets into it, you can see like, okay, this is it's not entirely devoid of a lean or a spin, but the raw information is there. And that's what I look for in documentaries, is that those raw underlying things that you have to think a little to pull out. it's just there. Like that information is just there, and
Right.
it's true, and it's happening. This all makes sense. Like this is the history of Putin. This is why he comes from what he comes from. This is what he's going for, and this is how he succeeding.
And that's good watching when you were able to see, okay, here's a string of facts that all make complete sense. And, oh, yeah, I remember that story. Oh, yeah, I remember that when that happened.
Right.
And then you know the moments when the filmmaker's injecting his own opinion.
Yeah.
And you could take it or leave it, but
Exactly.
the facts are
That's,
facts.
you know, like people get all hung up when opinions come up in these movies.
Right.
It's
Michael
like,
Moore makes a documentary. You don't like him?
fuck
Great.
you,
But
like,
the facts
are the facts. Yeah. Oh, that's why I watch Michael Moore because he just puts out information that is relevant to what I'm thinking about, and like he's got his own take and opinion on it, but I'm a smart person that can ignore that. It's not like I have to go in a fervent uproar just because he thinks a certain way.
How dare you try to brainwash me?
Right.
What's brainwashing you, dude?
And it's the same with books. Like you read books, you're not going to agree with everything an author has to say, but you're going to get some solid info out of there regardless.
Right. Well, you hope so.
Yeah.
For some people, it's just, I believe at some point I should bring it in. There was a contrast in summer reading lists.
Yeah.
They put out, that's a thing that the president puts out a summer reading list.
Yeah.
Well, Barack Obama still puts out a little summer reading list, and Donald Trump put out his summer reading list.
What was it, the Hardy Boys?
Well, yeah, it's just that that what was on the reading list, he didn't fucking read those. He wouldn't even sat to watch the movie versions of it.
Fuck that.
Anyway, of course, Obama's was like half Oprah book club and half, he's got a diverse, and he fucking read them all.
Yeah.
But not Trump. But anyway, we'll get to that one day. But so Active Measures, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and see it. You can get it on, I think it's on iTunes. It's on Hulu.
It's also on the pirated torrent scene if you're into that.
There you go. If you've got an unlocked Fire Stick like I have, you can go ahead and catch it there as well.
Those Fire Sticks, the source for the stuff that's on them is the pirate torrent scene.
Right, exactly that. Exactly that. But a lot of people get sketchy about doing that on their computers.
Yes, we don't recommend that.
Right, because you don't want to do that. Right. We respect the FBI, unlike most people these days.
We pay for everything. It's just sharing.
We'll pay for it one way or the other. So listen, hey y'all, it's been another great episode of The Middle. I want to invite you all to watch replays of us on the Middle's YouTube channel. Looking good, by the way. Check out the new look of the YouTube channel.
No, I don't.
Nice little photo of us on there.
Today.
Yeah, man, you're famous.
Yeah.
Also on Twitter, you can follow us at Hey Ronnie Wright. We got an Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. I'm on Google+. I'm on Blogger. I'm on Patreon. All over the place. And of course, you can always catch replays on haroldbroadcasting.com, as well as Justin's show, Mission Accomplished. For Justin, for Ryan at the wheel, and for all of us here at Harold Broadcasting, we will see you next time. Peace.
I know to you a stranger out of suicide.